Franchise Group is making a run at acquiring Kohl's. But what could that potentially mean for the vitamin shop? I'll provide some deeper thoughts on that introductory statement a bit later in this content, but I think it's best, at least at first, for me to catch you up on kind of what's happening at the department store retail chain Kohl's. The retailer has been pretty much like underperforming the retail counterparts like Ross Stores, Target, Dick's Sporting Goods, and Walmart for pretty much the last 10 years. That's why in early March 2021, an activist investor group led by Macellum Advisors disclosed that they had taken a 9.5% ownership of Kohl's. In its letter to Kohl's leadership, the activist investor group said that the board seems to be content with performing just slightly better than the worst companies in retail. They went on to say that the best of the worst is really not a viable strategy at all, nor does it satisfy shareholders like them that are seeking long term superior performance. In addition to pushing to kind of scramble the board, the activist investor group has been highly critical of the retailer's merchandising, inventory management, the customer engagement, and expense rationalization, along with pushing to unlock billions of real estate value trapped on Kohl's balance sheet. In mid April of 2021, Kohl's announced a settlement that included two independent directors by that activist investor group. They also came to a mutual agreement on a third director, the former Lululemon CEO Christine Day. The board also authorized an expansion of its share buyback plan to $2 billion. But that wasn't enough, at least for Macellum advisors, because they came back to Kohl's again in January 2022, pushing for Kohl's to make a series of moves, including selling property, ramping up more stock buybacks, and actually breaking out the e commerce section of the business. Most importantly, Macellum advisors stated that a sale process must commence. That activist investor publicity has created a lot of interest actually from strategic buyers. But takeover offers were said to not adequately reflect Kohl's value considering its future growth and cash flow generation. In response, Kohl's board of directors had adopted a shareholders' rights plan, also known as the poison pill. And for those maybe that have no idea what the heck a poison pill is, it's actually a defense tactic utilized by a target company to prevent or discourage hostile takeover attempts. Poison Pill allows existing shareholders the right to purchase additional shares at a discount, effectively diluting the ownership interest of a new hostile party. Not all of the bids, at least from the takeover ones that they got, were all that terrible. And at least the two contenders before Franchise Group came on appeared to be the Canadian department store Hudson's Bay Company, which also owns Saks Fifth Avenue, and private equity firm Sycamore Partners that owns the southern kind of general merchandise retailer Belk. While the Franchise Group's bid is reportedly not the highest, it's $9 billion dollars or around $69 per share, the offer does give Kohl's management team more options to find a workable deal. Ultimately, the ability for Franchise Group to carry out the Kohl's deal would largely depend on the backing of Vintage Capital Management, the investment firm run by retail veteran Brian Kahn. Vintage Capital Management owns around 12% stake in Franchise Group, and it just so happens that Brian Kahn is also the CEO of Franchise Group. So, what do I think about the Franchise Group making a run at buying Kohl's? Well, here are some thoughts that I had in a piece of content about 6 months ago. I'd expect them to have some more press releases, things like that, around mergers and acquisitions activity in the next 6 to 12 months. Franchise Group is one of the most active publicly traded companies in terms of trying to transform their portfolio and really look for value accretive deals. To say the least, it doesn't necessarily surprise me, but actually what might surprise me a little bit more is that Amazon hasn't been a name getting more circulation as an interested buyer in Kohl's. I've been adamant since late 2018, early 2019 that Amazon buy Kohl's, and you can kind of see some of those thoughts from an excerpt of a previous piece of content. I think that Amazon will buy Kohl's this year. I think
Kohl's is a good target for Amazon because they're already kind of doing some tests with them with kind of their return policies and just kind of seeing traffic volume. I'm sure there's some aspects of data sharing that Amazon put in play with that. And then also Kohl's has been kind of active in doing some different partnerships, I think with Aldi's. They're trying to figure out, are people willing to come in and kind of buy some groceries in their department store, and what is Kohl's in the next decade? What does that retail experience look like? So Kohl's kind of seems very open to testing some different things. And because they've already kind of started that testing process, I think Amazon finds that extremely attractive. The Aldi's one specifically seems, attractive because Amazon is going to be looking for click and collect points or small market points to either do an Amazon Go or a small cashierless type of Whole Foods or something like that to kind of further their grocery aspirations.
But a lot of it comes down to Amazon's familiarity with Kohl's. They've had a long partnership with Kohl's over the years. It's went from just them selling smart home type of devices within Kohl's over the last several years. That's moved into having them be a major returns retailer for them. So Amazon knows about Kohl's a lot. They know a lot about Kohl's. So I think that familiarity is worth something to Amazon. I also think that Kohl's has a much better merchandising mix as a whole compared to JCPenney. I think there's just overall they have a better merchandising mix. I think another one that could be very important to Amazon is that Kohl's has tested some grocery merchandising with a partnership with Aldi's. So I think that they've already have some data in there on how well grocery merchandising could be within Kohl's. And I think that if Amazon did purchase Kohl's, and thinking about all the stuff I just mentioned, I think that becomes like a Target killer because I think that Target overall is probably too much, the price is too high right now for Amazon. If they wanted to purchase Target, they should have done it years ago. So right now, I think that they need to create a Target-esque type of a retailer, and I think that Kohl's could be that name for them to do that. I can see, this Target-esque Kohl's having the grocery elements, having the general merchandise, having hard lines, having all that kind of stuff, and utilizing those stores within a very strong way for digital fulfillment and kind of layering in things with Amazon Go technology, layering in some of the data-driven merchandising that they have with the Amazon 4-star stores. They can have regional merchandising based around the buying habits of Amazon customers. And I think that there'll be a ton of opportunity for Amazon to utilize something that has been kind of thrown to the back burner, their Amazon Accelerator private label, their private label accelerator, this Our Brands mechanism that they have to create a bunch of private label brands. I think that having Kohl's there, that provides them some shelf space to test a lot of those products in a more retail sense. If they do want to build these big private labels, I think it's a perfect opportunity for Amazon to do that.
Now, a lot has changed in the retail and really just the entire world since those comments were made, but I'd argue the reasoning for Amazon to acquire Kohl's has only gotten stronger, especially as Amazon has publicly stated it will explore its own version of a department store. While Amazon hasn't been publicized much as a potential suitor, Kohl's leadership did reportedly fly to Seattle, Washington in the last few months, and the assumption is that it was to speak with Amazon. But you guys didn't click on this content to hear me clamor on about Amazon, so let's envision a world where Franchise Group actually acquires Kohl's. But before I break down some of the potential impacts this mergers and acquisitions activity could have on the Vitamin Shop, I wanted to share some quick additional thoughts to set the tone for this next section. Kohl's operates more than 1,100 stores across the US. Kohl's real estate strategy has been focused on an off mall presence. Kohl's has done, at least in my mind, a pretty good job at strategic retail partnerships, including the recently launched partnership with Sephora. The merchandising mix of Kohl's is heavily weighted towards soft lines, with the biggest category being women's apparel. All that said, how does this help the Vitamin Shop? I think firstly, it could help with private label merchandise placements. The Vitamin Shop has been focusing a ton of attention on being more than just a place that sells other people's brands. They are focused on private label penetration in store, but also finding creative strategic retail partnerships to create more brand awareness. With Kohl's noting that they want to focus deeper on like the active lifestyle categories and launching innovation zones, at least what they're calling them, which will inspire curations of cross category product, it makes sense to integrate more wellness categories. The new women's kind of private label line that the Vitamin Shop created called True You could be a great fit in Kohl's. Secondly, they can look at taking a giant leap forward, maybe and look at the Sephora partnership for inspiration and integrate store within a store concepts. It will likely be at a fraction of the scale as I think Sephora, at least last time, or my memory serves me right, about 5 to 7 times larger than the Vitamin Shop. So it's going to probably be a little bit different of a structure. But I want to remind those scratching their head maybe at how Sephora and the Vitamin Shop are even similar. Relook at the 6 wellness dimensions content that I created about a year or more ago. This store within a store idea could help the Vitamin Shop strategically fill gaps in its store network as the franchising process takes shape. And then, thirdly, and kind of finally, I would integrate the loyalty program and marketing together. Kohl's, I believe, has more than 30 million loyalty members. The current Kohl's program, to me at least, looks like a walled garden, but I would look to expand that across the various franchise group companies to create network effects. Kohl's shoppers that are picking up athletic apparel or footwear, why should they not cross market the Vitamin Shop offers that are personalized to them? The same goes for the Vitamin Shop customers looking to maybe get more workout attire. But as I stated earlier, this is all a pontification at this point, and Kohl's might not even end up being sold, or at least to the franchise group. My opinion is, though, that Kohl's will be sold and it will be sooner than later. If one of those bidders comes up with a big enough price, likely in the mid 70s, a share price point, I think the board will have to roll over and approve an acquisition. Kohl's announced it will hold its annual shareholders meeting on May 11th, 2022, when it faces a board fight against that activist investor, Macelum Advisors. So we'll just kind of have to see what happens next. If you enjoyed this YouTube video, hit that like button to support me. Also, help me get to my short term goal of getting to 2,000 subscribers by hitting that subscribe button. I'd love to see you join me on this journey, but we need to fix the fact that slightly more than 80% of you that are watching this YouTube video right now are not subscribed to my channel, and that makes me extremely sad. But I do want to thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.